Okay, we're live. Okay, so I'm on both TikTok and YouTube. So, welcome to anybody who's joining on either platform. I'm going to talk about midlife today. So, I'm excited for you to join me. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments and I'll try to get to those to see those. So, I guess let's get started. I usually come on at about 4. I'm a little bit early. Sometimes I come on a little earlier, but for the most part, I'm here almost every day. Some days I come on at a little bit of a different time, but right between 3 and 4, I'm usually coming on. And my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist, and I'm talking about midlife. And I'm going to be talking about some of the myths, how a lot of us think that midlife is a crisis. But I'm really excited to talk about this because I've been in the field for years now, for a few decades, and I'm also the author of The Mentorship Edge. And so a lot of this is all tied together. But anyway, let me get to the topic today. So, midlife is not your crisis. A lot of people think it is. It's your comeback. It's the best time to rewrite your story. It's the best time to start anything new, to sort of rewrite anything that you have that you might want to reframe. Midlife is the time to do it. So it's the exact moment you stop being led by all of your old expectations and you start leading with your own wisdom and purpose. I write a lot about this in Psychology Today and on my Substack called The Right Side of 40. And a lot of this that we think about with midlife is, has to do with fears or thinking that there is something negative in our future. And I talked about this already and covered our midlife fears. You can see some of those videos that I've created that are in TikTok and in on YouTube. But the main thing is to think of midlife as a time of rewriting anything you want to rewrite. It's a time of reinvention. It's a time for you to reflect and say, is there anything I've left out that I want to do that I haven't done? This is the time to say to yourself, I want to make sure that I'm leading my life the way that I want to lead it. So, if you start to reframe midlife, there are 10 myths that I'd love for you to just take a look at and see if you can debunk them. So, the first one is that midlife is decline. And most midlifers gain confidence and expertise, they don't lose it. But people often think of midlife as being tied to our physical bodies. So when we think of midlife being a physical decline, that's scary to us. That makes us think, oh no, that is not a future I want to look forward to. But if you really look at it, midlife is a series of physical decline. I need reading glasses now. Big deal. I don't mind that. Can I run as fast as I could when I was 20? No, but I also don't care about that. Most of us don't. What we do care about, though, is that we feel like we're experts in something and we get to feel like we are able to do some of the things that we couldn't do. We know who we are, these kinds of things. So we have an emotional gain at the same time that we're having, a physical decline. So the emotional part, though, is the stuff that we look forward to. Number 2 is that all midlifers feel lost. That's just not true. Midlifers report higher happiness and satisfaction. I always tell my students when I teach them that you might be able to outrun me, but I'm happier than you in my 50s because midlifers don't feel lost. They feel happier and more satisfied in general. This is what the reports are always saying. Number 3 myth to debunk is that crisis is guaranteed. I grew up thinking that midlife crisis was something that happened to everyone, that you were going to go and buy that red sports car and that you were going to really have an issue with turning 40. or even 50. But that's really just not the case. Only 10 to 20% of people really experience a crisis. And you know what? That's really pretty often temporary. And so it isn't something that we should expect. Number 4, aging kills creativity. I don't know who came up with this myth, but this has really come out there where people think that as you age, you get less creative, you get stuck in your ways, you can't think of new things, you really can't think in a broad way. But more more new creative projects and careers are launched in midlife than in any other time frame. So a lot of people do launch new careers, new creative projects, they start new endeavors. Creativity is alive and well, and midlifers have the resources to engage in these things. So this is exactly the time that people are enacting their creative sides. Number 5, the myth is that midlife is a solo journey, that it's lonely. But that's really not the case. While there is a lot of research that shows that loneliness is an epidemic, not just in the US, but in other countries, we do know that community and connection are really valued in this time of our life. So if we are connecting with others, this counts. If we're connecting with people, that is really helpful. It makes it so it's not a solo journey. Number 6 myth, career must be stable. That's just not true. Midlifers pivot all the time. They do this because they're like, hey, I can pivot. I have the opportunity to pivot. I'm going to do that. I want to change my career now. I can. I'm going to do something that maybe even takes less money because I want to do something that gives me something that I couldn't do before. This is the time when most people feel okay to be able to do that. Number 7, youth is ideal. All right. Now, come on. This is actually all over the place that everyone's chasing youth. But wisdom and self-acceptance matter more to us in midlife. Even though the ads and the media and everything else is saying otherwise, in fact, most people would choose the wisdom that they have and the self-acceptance that they have over another form of youth. That's just how it ends up being, even though it's not talked about that way all the time. Number 8, mentorship is for the young. No, absolutely not. I was founder of the Mentor Project and I was CEO for 8 years. I can tell you a lot about mentorship. I also wrote The Mentorship Edge. And I can tell you that GenX drives mentorship and legacy building. It really does. If you are Gen X, this is the generation that is really driving mentorship right now, making it so that this is one of the biggest legacy building tools that we have. And it's free and it's out there. And people are so eager to take part in this form of legacy building. It's really quite amazing. Number 9, purpose fades after 50. That is not true. I don't know why people think this. I really don't. But meaning grows through new pursuits and giving back. I can tell you that after running the Mentor Project for 8 years, and after really seeing how people engage with purpose, that is unbelievable. And people over 50 are engaged in purpose. The reason it's more purpose driven in midlife is that when you're younger, you're figuring out who you are. You're figuring out what you need to be. You're checking the boxes that other people have put in front of you. You know, like go get the degree, go get a job, go do something. It's always somebody else's box that we're checking. When we're in midlife, we're checking our own boxes. This is something that when we do this, this gives us the purpose. We're picking purposeful boxes that we want to check. I want to start a new company, or I want to mentor. I want to give back in some way. I want to switch careers. Whatever we want to do, that's our purpose, our box that we want to check. And that meaning grows for us. It doesn't fade after 50. Number 10, physical aging stops fun. No, it doesn't. I mean, how many people in midlife and older have you seen that have joined pickleball groups? I mean, people are out there having fun. It is not at all a time when people slow down. This is when people start to travel. They learn new things. They start to engage in new ways. It's a time when actually we're really ramping up the fun because it's our own fun. We get to pick the fun that we want to have. So, this is kind of reframing midlife and some of the myths that are out there with regard to that. There are also myths about midlife crisis that I'm hoping to debunk as well. I think that, one of the things that I really want to talk about is how midlife has a lot of things that really do need to be debunked. And hold on, I'm just checking on some. Uh, I'm just checking on some things here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get back to the list. So this is the list about the 10 myths about midlife crisis, and you can read about this in my Psychology Today. I'm an expert contributor there. I also have the Right Side of 40 on Substack that I write about. I write about a lot of this there. And you can also find my posts on YouTube and TikTok where I also talk about these as well. So if any of these are of interest to you, you can find more of it. All right, myth number one about midlife crisis is that only men have a crisis. That for some reason was put out there that, men are going to hit 40 or 50 and off they're going to want to go getting that red car, the fancy car, and they're going to, be in this midlife crisis. They're going to want to switch jobs, get a new, young girlfriend, all of this stuff. So not true. This is a complete myth. Women reinvent careers, pursue passions. This is not a crisis time. This is a time when men and women are reinventing themselves. And that reinvention comes with it really isn't the red car and all of that. Midlife is a time when a lot of people can afford these things. But it's really a time when people are saying, I want to go do a career that I want to do. I want to go pursue a passion that I want to have. That is not a crisis in almost all cases. That is where somebody's saying, I want to check my own box. So myth number two about midlife crisis is that the crisis is reckless behavior. No, most changes that we make in midlife are thoughtful. They're about finding meaning. They're about pursuing something that we're really passionate about. It is not about being reckless. Most people would say, hey, midlife is the time that I get to do the things that I want to do. So it is not reckless behavior. Number three, always drastic changes. No, most of them are subtle shifts. A lot of it is prioritizing things differently. That's a very common one. Adding something new, taking some of the things that aren't working for you out of your life. Those are most of the things that are happening, and those are pretty subtle. They're not dramatic shifts. Number five, this is a big myth that people always think is really true, and it's not, which is that a midlife crisis is negative. So midlife change is what I'll call it, is really something that fuels transformation that people want in most cases. It is not a negative thing for people. So that is a myth. And part of that is the myth that you have to buy a sports car. If people buy a sports car, a lot of people can finally get one in midlife. And the reason they might get that is because they don't have to have kids in their car. They're not taking kids places all the time. They finally have the money for it. That's one of the reasons why, but it is not, you do not have to buy a sports car. That is just a myth. 7, divorce is inevitable. That is not true. Many strengthen their relationship in midlife. A lot of the stress is relieved, and so people will have a strengthened relationship in midlife. It is not That is just another myth. Um, Number 8 myth, it's age specific. No, any kind of existential question can happen at all ages. It's just that, midlife is a time where it's a very big pivotal point for us in terms of the bandwidth we have. We know who we are, we, know what we want. And so this ability to question things is something that we do. So it's not age specific, but this is something that we all look forward to. And number 9, only unhappy people have crises. No, people can look at, when I talk about crisis, I'm going to talk about change, right? And reinvention. That's not negative. When we have a shift, that is people saying, I'm going to re-examine what's working for me and what's not. Very successful people do this. This has nothing to do with being unhappy. This has nothing to do with not being successful. You can have something going great and say, I want to pivot. I want to make a change. Happens all the time. That's not a negative crisis. And finally, number 10, work ends after your midlife crisis. No, but a lot of people will say, I want to sort of switch. I want to thrive in a new career. I want to try something new. I was just talking to somebody who said, you know what? I'm so tired of my regular job. I think I want to become a writer. Oh, okay. So that's completely different from what this person is doing. But they feel like it might be a time that they can make that change. They, are feeling more secure in everything that they're doing. So that's something they can do. Now, I just want to say, I know that I just gave all these myths and, I'm giving the other side of it. A lot of us, when we are in midlife, might say, I want to shift something, but we don't do it full time. A lot of people will do it as a side hustle or as, a small passion project or something like that. It doesn't have to mean that it's a full and complete shift of whatever it is that you're doing. So that's kind of the nice thing about midlife is that we have that flexibility. We could even say, I'm going to dip my toe in something new, try it out. And if it doesn't work, I'm still good. I can stay where I am with what I'm doing. And if it ends up being that it's looking good for me, I'll go ahead and move forward with a little more of it. And so you can ease into something that takes up more of your time or have several. I always talk about it's like a pie where you can cut off slices and have different slices be the different kinds of work that you're doing. You don't have to just do one thing. And that's nice to be able to do that in midlife. So a lot of us pivot. We do new things because we feel like it's now or never. If I don't do this, I never will. I was at that point in my 40s where, or maybe I was just about to turn 50, I guess. And I had always been a fearful public speaker where, I mean, when I was a kid, raising my hand in class was hard for me. It was just really hard. My heart would pound, my voice would shake. And this was just how it was. And I said to myself, that's it. I am going to shift. I'm in midlife. If I don't do this now, I'll never do it. And so I decided I wanted to do a TEDx talk. I had something to say, but I had always thought to myself, I can't do it. I can maybe write about it, but I don't think that I can get up and talk in front of people about it. But I did it. I applied. And I faced my fear head on and I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll make a complete and utter fool of myself on stage. I didn't want to do that, but I figured, okay, what's the worst case scenario? It's not going to ruin my career. My kids and husband aren't going to hate me. Okay, my friends aren't going to, run away and hide from me. So I decided to do it. And I really worked hard at it. And in fact, I took on a teaching position as an adjunct professor because I thought this is going to help me to get over my fear of public speaking. And I did that and thought it would just be a semester that I would do it. I tried it out and I'm still there 8 years later because I really enjoy it. And just haven't ever stopped doing it. But that was a pivotal moment for me. I did the TEDx talk. I literally practiced it 200 times in my house. Um, and I was able to prove to myself that transformation is possible, that if you want to do something, you can do it. And so the TEDx talk was done. I felt really good about it. I'm still teaching, so I'm doing so much more. I do public speaking now. That was the pivotal moment that changed for me and allowed me to move in front of my fears and say, I'm going to step out in front of my fears and take control of it. And I'm not alone in that. That's a midlife thing that people do. Other midlifers will say, this is my time. I'm going to write something. I've always, felt scared to write things and put it out there. Maybe people will judge me. I'm afraid of that. But that's what we do in midlife, is we take those leaps. And that's what's a great thing about midlife, is that we do that. It's a much more forgiving group of people. Midlifers tend to be less judgmental than when we're in our 20s. It's an easier crowd to be around. They're usually pretty good about encouraging if you're trying something new in midlife. So these are some things, if you're not in midlife, that you can look forward to. If you are in midlife, that you can say, I'm going to try to take a leap, try to do something new and different that I've always been afraid of, but I'm going to try it out anyway. And, some famous people have made really big midlife reinventions. And I have a list here, and it's kind of cool. So Martha Stewart became a media mogul after 40. So she was over 40 when she became a media mogul. That's kind of cool to think that, she's so well known now, but it was after 40 that it really happened for her. So if you're over 40 and you're thinking you are washed up, think again, because I have 9 more people to share with you. George Foreman, he became a boxing comeback in his 40s. And then an entrepreneur. I used to have the George Foreman grill. I don't know if anybody else ever had that, but I had that. So he did all of that in his 40s. Vera Wang became a fashion designer, well known for what she did after 40. Julia Child published her first cookbook at 49. Ray Kroc bought McDonald's at age 52. Samuel L. Jackson landed major roles after 40. Laura Ingalls Wilder published Little House books after 65 years of age. Anybody who liked Little House on the Prairie? Gwyneth Paltrow built her wellness empire in her 40s. Valerie Bertinelli shifted from acting to hosting in her 40s. There's so many people that have done things in their 40s and older that has made a shift for them in their lives. Either they reinvented themselves or they made their first step into something big in their 40s or later. So these are not uncommon. People will say, I'm going to take that leap because, we have accumulated strength and belief in ourselves when we're in our midlife. So if you want to think about resilience, so that's people who have reinvented themselves. There are lots of ways that we're resilient and able to be resilient in, our midlife. And just to define for you, midlife is 40 to 65. So, it's a big time period. Some of the ways that we have resilience is that we are able to navigate economic recessions with adaptability. We are able to build careers without the digital safety nets. We can care for aging parents while still parenting kids. I mean, that is a burden for many, but we can do it. That is being resilient. Being resilient is being able to do the things that are tough for us. We can pivot careers after layoffs or in burnout. We are able to pioneer technology adoption in the workplace. Just think to yourself, if you are in midlife, How many things have you had to adapt to? I mean, I remember being a kid having a wall phone, a calculator. I remember when the first computers came around. There have been so many pivots that have come about, and anybody who's in Gen X knows those pivots. The ability to adapt is unmatched by any other generation, really. Um, the term latchkey kid came around in the 80s, and that was something that was, people grew up by age 8, having a key to their house. So we grew up having this kind of resilience. I'm not advocating for this or saying that it's a better thing that we had that, but we are a resilient group. People are able to rebuild after loss, after divorce. The Gen Xers are really able to do this. This is midlifers. This is resilience that we're really good at. We're really good at advocating for work-life balance and flexibility. We were the ones who said, hey, I want some work-life balance, and I want some flexibility. And we were able to get that. Midlifers are much better at remaining calm under stress. So you may be feeling the stress, but you're able to react to it differently than you would have in your 20s. And midlifers are really good at supporting each other through all kinds of issues like the pandemic, 9/11, any financial downturn. You'll see midlifers supporting each other. So um, we are really able to reinvent ourselves. Part of it is because we have the resilience. We're able to say to ourselves, I've adapted a million times to, new technology that's come my way. I've had to navigate for myself or make my lunches when I was a kid, whatever it was. We're good at it. We're good at being resilient because we have been through a lot of change. So if you look at, your life, if you're a midlifer and you look back to when you're a kid, your childhood looks very different from the childhood of kids right now. And that's because tech was like having a phone in your pocket was an unthought of thing in the 70s and early 80s. But now we essentially are able to have what is like a computer right in our back pocket. We have all of these things that we've adapted to. So, if you look at all the top fears that people have, like losing a job or retiring and feeling invisible, that is a common one. People feel like I don't want to be invisible. I don't want to be irrelevant. I don't want any of that. That's one of the fears that people have in midlife. But there are things that we can do about that. Being in a position of retiring, losing your job, or feeling irrelevant, you could become a mentor. Easy enough. I mean, there are already mentoring organizations. Go to SCORE. You can go to your local library, go to Rotary, wherever it is in your local town, become an advisor. Take your experience that you have and put it into volunteer work or community leadership. That's going to give you renewed relevance. It's going to make you feel visible, being engaged in the community. Identity loss is a huge one. This is a big fear that people have. And, when kids leave home, I mean, people talk about this. This is the empty nest syndrome. This isn't the yippee, we have time to ourselves. This is called a syndrome. This is that because it's that big a deal. A career shift. Who am I now? This might be you retire, might be that you switch jobs. This is the who am I now phase. And that's because we are so used to living with our business card as our identity card. So we use our job title, we'll use our degree as, saying who we are. So a person might say, I'm a teacher, I'm a police officer, I'm a doctor, I'm a whatever. And that is how they identify. You might say, I'm a mom, and then your kids go off to college, and then you feel lost. Who am I now? So, the solution to this is to use intentionality to explore all kinds of new passions. Take a class, start a project, join a new sport, reconnect with interests, and do them as much as you possibly can, because your identity grows from what you choose to do. So, and it's not from what you did before. So, I like to tell people that you don't just have one identity, you have multiple identities. You might be the person who's really great at fixing things, and you're also a person who's really great at whatever job you do, and being a parent or being a grandparent or being, a caregiver. It's endless. Our identity isn't just one thing. And so reminding ourselves of that and making sure that we're intentional in joining things and expanding our identity is very smart. Getting stuck. People have a fear of getting stuck. This is scary for a lot of people. Feeling trapped by routines. When people are doing things the same every day, it makes people feel anxious. A lot of times you can feel secure in that, but you can also feel anxious in that. So there is oftentimes a hard balance to strike, but feeling stuck, just make one small change, one tiny change. Try a new hobby, volunteer, travel, shake up your pattern just a little bit. And you will start to see new facets of yourself in this. So a change in midlife does not require a drastic shift. It can be something small. You might just add one small thing to your day that can change it a little bit. People fear aging in midlife. This is one that a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, I'm really afraid of decline. Who's going to take care of me when I'm older? What's my life going to be like? Am I going to lose my memory? All of these things. Aging starts to be something very scary for people. And it's really mostly physical change that people are afraid of. And when they hear of someone in their circle getting sick or someone dying, this is another trigger. So the only thing you can really do about this is to try not to focus only on the physical aspects of age and reframe aging as gain. Okay, you're getting more happiness, you have more wisdom, you have richer relationships. You may have fewer friends, but they're closer friends, they're more meaningful friends. So prioritize learning and having new experiences, getting what you want from life, instead of saying, I'm going to stick with the same old pattern, but I'm going to be nervous about what my future is. So try to add something new. Being left behind is one that a lot of people also feel really nervous about. So watching trends, careers, friendships, moving forward. These are things that can be really scary for us, feeling like it's almost like a FOMO, fear of missing out. So we have to build intentional connections. We need to be involved in a way that allows us not to feel like we're being left out. Part of it is to say to yourself, do I really want to do this? Or do I just feel like I'm going to be missing out if I'm not doing it? A lot of times people don't want to do things, but they feel the FOMO, the feeling like they're being left behind, but they really don't want to do it. So if you're really intentional in how you think about things, a lot of the things you don't want to do, you don't really care about it. You're just stuck in feeling like, oh my gosh, others are doing it, I want it. So ask yourself, do I really want to do it? And if you really do, then go do it, because you still have time. You have the ability to go do it. So think of yourself, just a few things to think about. You are not your past, you are your possibility. You are not your past, you are your possibility. That's something to really think about. And your possibility is whatever you want it to be. So make that a mantra for yourself. Relevance grows with what I give, not with what I keep. So you are not relevant if you're standing on a pile of riches all by yourself. You are relevant by what you give. That can be your caring. That can be um, your mentorship. That can be you volunteering. That can be whatever it is. But that whatever you're giving is what makes you relevant. Every comeback begins with one small, bold step. So midlife is your opportunity for comeback. So just take one small, bold step. And I invite you to check out my writing on psychology today, to check out the book that I wrote, The Mentorship Edge. You can find my writing also in The Right Side of 40. I have a blog called The Right Side of 40 on Substack. And you can find me on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And I am always available to answer questions. So leave me a message if you have any questions about midlife, about mentorship, about aging, any of those. I'm always delighted to talk to people about these. So again, my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist, and it was great to be on here with you today. Have a great day.